I'm going live here, starting the show today with Fox News, it looks like. Go Fox News.
I want to ask you about your investigation, but first, let me get to this breaking news. I have in my hand a letter from the Department of Justice that was sent to the Southern District of New York on Saturday.
All right, folks, that's enough to get us started there. That was Sunday, I believe, Fox News. That's a GOP congressman talking to Maria Barcha something or another. I don't know. I don't watch cable news, folks, other than seeing these bits, so I don't really know. But what that story is about is breaking news over the weekend. The Biden Department of Injustice sent a letter to a witness that was going to testify, I think before I went live just a few moments ago. I think he is en route to testify to the GOP, a guy named Devin Archer. And that's really all you need to know, folks. Anyway, welcome to GAMcast for, Monday, July 31st, 2023. I'm going to get you up to speed on all the news of the day before we're done. And I think this is going to be a short program because it's really kind of a slow news day. They must be ready to drop the Trump stuff any minute now because there's not a whole lot of news out there today. And I'm really surprised by that because Devin Archer looks like he is going to testify. Devin Archer is Hunter Biden's business partner, so we're going to get a heaping helping of the Biden corruption that at this point is just obvious to anybody. We need a special counsel, and we should be investigating it, but we're not taking it serious as a country right now, so that's not going to. Normally, on a slow news day, that would mean I would go on for about an hour and 25 minutes, but unfortunately, I have a trial tomorrow, so I've got to get in and I got to get out. You're not going to get cheated because there's really not a whole lot to talk about, but I'm gonna entertain you for a little while anyway because there's a bunch of things I want to talk about. And I think the next story is Trump, and then the story after that is my latest theory on the Supreme Court hoax that I tweeted out. If you're on Twitter, I tweeted it out about 11 o'clock. It was a 3 or 4, I think it was a 4-part tweet, which I rarely do, so that should have been a signal that I was putting together an article, which I am, and that's going to be my new way to write these articles is to do 3 or 4 or 5 thread tweets and then turn those into the article. So hopefully we'll get that article up here soon. Those of you at the Substack have been on me about that, and I need to get on it. I've got a few in the can, but anyway, let's get to this Devin Archer stuff. Let the congressman tell you a little bit more what's going on here in his view. And the only point I want you to hear here is just how feckless the GOP is. I mean, they really are. The one thing that a lot of advantages that the left has is they are a lot more passionate in their belief. I mean, they're lunatics, but they're passionate in their lunacy. And the GOP still thinks that this is somehow, ladies and gentlemen taking care of ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Ritz fan out there. So anyway, he seems to be thinks he's in a constitutional republic where the rule of law matters. But anyway, here's what it sounds like when you're in a constitutional republic where the rule of law matters. Sounds something like this.
By the way, Devin Archer is testifying on Monday. Do you usually see the DOJ send letters like this out on a Saturday?
Never. This is the first time I've ever heard of the Department of Justice doing anything on a Saturday.
So what is this letter? Can you walk us through it? The government is apprising the court of the status of Devin Archer's appeal of his judgment of conviction, and they request that the court set a surrender date for the defendant to report to a facility.
Okay, folks, you get it. Hey, you're going to testify for the GOP, which, by the way, understand, if Nancy Pelosi still ran the House, this would not even be happening. All the bank accounts, all the tens of millions of dollars the Bidens have received, all the Hunter Biden laptop stuff, all these things, you wouldn't be hearing about any of this. The Twitter files, which we're going to cover later in the day today, wouldn't be hearing any of it. The GOP sent the subpoena to Twitter. Twitter had to turn over, not Twitter, Facebook. Facebook had to turn over all the emails, and Zuckerberg had to admit all these things. Now, this is all because of your GOP. This is the way it's supposed to work. Now, if the media were to take it and put this into the cultural mainstream that people actually cared about, you'd be getting an improved society. But since no one cares, because unfortunately, and I'm still baffled this happens, but because the mainstream media still controls things, you're not going to hear about it. So this is obvious. They did it on a Saturday. They did it out in the open. It's obvious, like, hey, remember, buddy, yeah, you're going to get sentenced here pretty soon. And when you get sentenced, we're the DOJ, and what we suggest is normally 99% of the time what you get. And so, just be mindful of that when you go up there and testify about my son, right? I mean, it's just rank corruption, obviously. But of course, then you have the mainstream media to explain it. So I heard several people yesterday, this broke when I was on the golf course, trying to ruin my Sunday afternoon. Just kidding. Nothing ruins my Sunday afternoon. Nothing ruins any of my days. None of this stuff bothers me that much. It may sound like it did. Somebody asked me the other day, does my heart rate get up when I do this? And I literally showed them my Garmin that my heart rate is never up. It's perfectly. Some of us just have the gift of being passionate and sounding passionate when we are talking about things. But anyway, it doesn't bother me, but to me, it's just ridiculous. So I had a bunch of people debunking the idea that the fact that it came on a Saturday is unusual. Well, I mean, before COVID, they couldn't, apparently, you weren't able to carry your laptop home. It was considered a security risk. But after COVID, they got rid of this. So, magically, the security risk just went away because of COVID, right? Because if virus shows up on the scene, the security risk goes away, so we can change hundreds of years of policy. Don't write me and tell me I know we didn't have laptops hundreds of years. You know the point I'm making. Anyway, so of course it doesn't make any blame sense. And even if it is possible to work from home with your laptop, right, you still don't do stuff on Saturday unless you have to. That was obviously a signal, right? The fact that they made it public was a signal. But here's Catherine Herridge, I don't know, one of the alphabets. She's with the CBS. Okay. Emmy nominated senior investigative respondent. Now, this is a journalist. This is an expert. This is somebody I'm supposed to take seriously. Now, I never actually took him seriously because I'm born that way. I'm a very skeptical person. Those of you who know me know that. So, when I was 4 years old, I would have been skeptical. But, whatever. Here she is. Now, see what she has to say about this, okay? From Devon Archer attorney Matthew Schwartz. Okay, interesting. We are aware of the speculation the Department of Justice's weekend request to have Mr. Archer report to prison is an attempt by the Biden administration to intimidate him in advance of his meeting with the House Oversight Committee on Monday. Now, she circles this. See, I'm supposed to be all impressed by this next line. To be clear. Now, hold on a second before I go on with Ms. Herridge wants me to think, because she's the expert. She's the journalist, you see. I'm supposed to think this is really important. Now, first off, Catherine, let me tell you something. As a lawyer myself, and forget that, as a person with an IQ somewhere approaching triple digits, I don't need to hear from the lawyer what he had to say. He got the letter. If he's got any sense anywhere in that head of his, and this is he, right? Yeah, it's Matthew. I said, well, I don't know. Nowadays, Matthew might not be he. I don't know. But this person, I'm assuming, is not an imbecile and is not going to piss off the very Department of Justice that's trying to intimidate him. But apparently this is lost on Ms. Herridge. Continue. To be clear, Mr. Archer does not agree with that speculation. Oh, the hostage doesn't agree. He's in danger. Okay, good. Right? They're treating me very well, of course. In any case, Mr. Archer will do what he has planned to do all along, which is show up on Monday and do his and to honestly answer the questions that are put before him by the congressional investigators. Oh, nothing to say. Thank you, Catherine, for that journalism. Thank you. Now I feel so much better. I just thought there might be an attempt to intimidate somebody. Folks, I don't want to take credit for this. Cerno tweeted this out, I think yesterday, and he's abso-freaking-lutely right. I wish I'd have gotten to it. I know it, but he got to it before I did. And he said, look, when the first pandemic they came out with, we actually trusted those people. Remember and I did. I mean, I knew some of these agencies were full of it, like with all the environmental stuff, but I didn't think the CDC was corrupt. I didn't think that the FBI was near as corrupt pre-Trump, right? So they came out, they had a little bit of credibility. I mean, I did the same thing all y'all did. I went to Chick-fil-A, came home, took stuff out of Chick-fil-A, put the bag in it, washed my hands, took the thing out of the wrapper, put it aside, washed my hands. I mean, I washed my hands like 6 times to eat a Chick-fil-A biscuit. I remember doing it because the CDC said I was supposed to do that. Now, I would laugh in their faces if they told me to do that. But then I trusted them. So anyway, here's what's going to have to happen. Now that we know not to trust them, right? Next time they're going to have to use more authoritarian measures. And he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Could not be righter. All right. So anyway, that's that story. We'll see what Devon Archer says. And by the way, programming note there, folks, tomorrow I have a trial. So I doubt I'll do a podcast. But if I do, it will be in the afternoon. So if you're looking for it to be downloaded around noonish, which is when they drop now, it won't be there unless the trial settles, which I doubt. One side's just crazy, so you can't settle with crazy. But anyway, so if I do it, it will be in the afternoon, but it's only if the trial ends early. Otherwise, if you don't see one drop, I will be back. Should be back Wednesday. So a lot of Donald Trump stuff out there we're going to get to real quick. And so one of the things that they can't understand, and this is F. Chuck Todd is going to tell you, I think I got rid of the ad. I try to do that, but some of these things, I don't understand it. Like, these people are not bright, folks. folks. I mean, I've watched the stupid Adobe ad twice now to key this up for you. And then sometimes when I click it, it might want me to watch the ad again. If it does, I'm not going to do it. I'll come back to it, maybe see if I can play the ad while I'm talking about something else. But it's annoying. It's like, I already put your video in the back versus Twitter video, right, or YouTube video, because they don't make me watch as many ads, in some cases no ads. But anyway, so here's F. Chuck Todd. He just can't understand why we've indicted Trump. Why isn't that just the end of it? Why isn't that just the end of it? And here's the point a lot of points I want to make about this, but one of the ones I want you to understand about the left, and it's not just the capture, it's not just the echo chamber, all the things that they have, but they are seriously uncurious. That is a sign of a lack of intelligence. I was out with a client yesterday, and he was telling me a bunch of things that he chalks up to being a sign of intelligence, one of which frankly, I mean, I guess I should be gratified because I happen to suffer from it, but one of them apparently is bad spelling is a sign of intelligence. And I was like, well, I'm a bad speller, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the computer coming along when I should have been learning to spell and I could just spell check and didn't need it. But anyway, I digress. So one of the things that is a sign of intelligence is a curiosity about things. I'm reading about, as you know, I finished it, the part 1 of the volume, so I had to make a decision. Do I read all 6 of the Thomas the Jefferson books, or do I skip between them? And so I've decided I'm going to go, if I read one book, then I switch to classic fiction, and I'll come back and do Thomas the Jefferson later. But anyway, one of the things about Thomas the Jefferson that you probably should know already, but he had a very curious mind. I didn't know it, but he apparently was a huge fan of music. Did not know that. He was a huge fan of the sciences, the law, of course. Obviously, he was a lawyer. But anyway, it's a sign of curiosity, is a sign of intelligence. But Chuck Todd is not curious at all about this. He's not going, well, it's just God dadgummit. I would have thought we'd try to prosecute this man. He'd drop in the polls. What's going on here? No curiosity at all. In fact, he's angry at you. But his brain, his cognitive dissonance has so gotten a hold of him. Here's what he has to say about what's going on. Take a listen.
You have Congressman Will Hurd on the program this morning. He is the candidate we just saw booed on the stage for talking about Donald Trump in a negative light. It did have the feel of Donald Trump's as the headliner and everybody else sort of on the undercard. Do you see anything changing the dynamic of this Republican primary where it is now, which is that the more indictments come in, the stronger Donald Trump gets?
Now, folks, this is how you know it's a hoax, okay? Who ever heard of Will Hurd? Right, Will Hurd is in the Chris Christie, and by the way, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my weight down too, but Jesus, Chris Christie looks like an Oompa Loompa. He looks like he ate the other Oompa Loompas now. I mean, he is seriously overweight. The man does not need to be out campaigning, and he's not even really campaigning for president. You can see it. I guarantee you, if you trace his money, it's all anti-Trumpers and all Democrats giving him money, and his whole job is to get up and attack Trump, mostly baselessly, but to attack Trump and make headlines. I don't know who else can do it besides the fact that he's the Oompa Loompa in the room. Anybody else can do it. But that's Will Hurd's lane. Will Hurd is, hey, I'm the reasonable Republican and this guy's a crook and et cetera, et cetera. So setting aside the ridiculousness of Will Hurd, let's hear what Chuck Todd has to say about the Trump phenomenon. And then I'll explain to you what's going on, which is obvious to anybody that has the remoteness of curiosity. But listen to F. Chuck Todd. Again, this is a person we're supposed to believe is an expert and has a bunch of information you need to hear. Take a listen.
Right now, Willie, one of the things we're trying to focus people's attention to is what this calendar is starting to look like in the first 6 months of 2024, where we're literally going to be going back and forth. In fact, the day of the Iowa caucuses, a civil trial involving Donald Trump begins. There's all sorts of, you get a set of primaries, then there'll be a court hearing, there'll be more primaries, maybe the nomination is over, then we have some more court hearings, and that's what we know for now, and this is before any new indictments that could come from Jack Smith or from what's going on in
they're
Atlanta.
coming, by the way, folks. They're coming.
Willie, that's the moment I think that all of a sudden Republicans are going to ask themselves, what are we doing?
You see, you have no idea, you idiot Republicans, and I don't know if you're Republicans or not. I'm not. I'm going to probably vote against Biden and whoever the Republican nominee is. But yeah, do you understand you're about to nominate somebody that's going to be under indictment? And right now it's 3, but it could be 6, it could be 9, it could be 10. Do you understand what you're doing? Do you know? I mean, think about that. They're not remotely curious about why people are doing it. They just don't even know what they're doing. They don't even have a clearest idea. That's what it is. They're going to wake up and go, what have we done? What have we done? Right? I mean, it's just pathetic, folks. But not only is it boring as hell, It's literally pathetic. Anyway, so here's a good one. And again, I just want you to understand these people, it's not just that they're in an echo chamber. It's not just that they lack curiosity, right? It's not just that, right? A lot of, I don't think F. Chuck Todd fits into this category. I think he's just in it for the money, and he knows that he's full of it. But except, other than the echo chamber, he never hears from anyone else. But Andrew Wiseman, and I've been using Andrew Wiseman a lot because he is a good example of something that's been revealed to us, and we should be having the aha moment. And I know I have, and I know if you're listening to me, you have, because I've pointed it out to you several times. We should be having the aha moment that Chuck Todd thinks we need to have about Trump, and that is this. What in the world were all these rabid partisans doing in the deep state? Like, does Andrew Wiseman have any clue that when he goes out and he is and I'm not just talking about partisan, I'm talking about left, anti-Republican. He doesn't even think you should be able to vote for Republicans. He thinks you should be in jail if you're a Republican. Okay, this is how far this guy goes. And he used to be the general counsel for the FBI. When Mueller put together a team, Mueller picked this man to be the head guy. Okay. Now, back then, people said, "Hey, you put a bunch of people on that committee there that you got there, Mr. Mueller, supposed Republican above reproach. Do you know you put a bunch of Democrats on there?" "Oh, that's not, sir. That is improper. I don't look at the party affiliation of people that work. That just isn't done. It isn't done." Okay, fine, it isn't done. But let's say you should know to look at the party affiliation when we're talking about things like super voters. And real quick, for people that might be new that are listening, again, I still haven't figured out how to cut that phone off. I promise I'm going to figure it out. But anyway, I'm going to talk over it, and it'll stop and roll to voicemail. So here's the thing, though, right? There's one thing to be a registered Republican or Democrat. We're talking about people that give money. They give money in large numbers, or bundlers in the case of that. When you see that, you're not just talking about the average ordinary person. You're talking about somebody who is serious about it, and increasingly, especially if you're on the left, doesn't even think the other side should exist. The Republicans largely don't agree with the Democrats, and they'll mock the Democrats, but they're not out there trying to put them in jail or saying that if you're a Democrat, you shouldn't exist. That's exactly what Wiseman's doing. But anyway, that's the way Mueller saw it back then. Well, back then, you really weren't sure exactly where Andrew Wiseman came down. You pretty were sure that he would be anti-Trump and would try to get him for the Russiagate, which obviously ended up being a hoax. But now there's no question. I mean, we're going to listen to him in a minute. Anyway, so here's what he had to say. So Mr. Trump, somebody named Jonathan Swan treated this. Mr. Trump still received 22% among voters who believe he has committed serious federal crimes. Okay? Now, Andrew Wiseman, this statistic is actually an indictment of those people. Now, here's the thing. I assume the 22% of the people that believes he's committed serious federal crimes probably are saying, yes, I believe that those crimes that he did actually commit them, but I don't think those things should be crimes. So, for example, I believe that if those laws applied to him, he arguably did violate them. I don't believe they should apply to him, and I believe they're unconstitutional. So there's lots of ways to understand that. But see, again, Andrew has no curiosity why that is. It's just an indictment of those people. 22% of his fellow Americans, that is. But I want you to listen to this person. Now, Andrew Wiseman has a lot of things going on in his life that if I'm not an identitarian, but they are identitarians, right? So it's all about immutable characteristics, define you and how you get promoted. I mean, Kamala Harris is the vice president because of her immutable characteristics. And that they say that, I don't. So you do what you will with that. But I want you to listen to this person as he talks, okay? And here he's talking about the fact that the document that in the last couple of days has now been indicted. So originally we heard first they leaked the transcript, then they leaked the tape. Trump, the rustling of the papers, right? You remember hearing it, the rustling. I got this. Can you believe this? I didn't do this. This breaks my point. Blah, 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 blah. It was about Iran and a plan and a whole bunch of stuff. Doesn't really matter. He threw it in the indictment to inflame the allegations about Trump, but then he didn't ultimately charge it. Now he's charged it. Well, this is back when Andrew Wiseman was talking about the fact that it wasn't charged. But here's what I want you to listen for very carefully. Listen to his voice, his inflections, the way he talks. If you're on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter, you can also see the man, the face. Ask yourself, does this person seem like the type of person you would give a tremendous amount of power to and expect to give you an honest, good faith answer about anything? Take a listen.
The thing that's a little unanswered is The indictment describes this incident at Bedminster in detail, but it doesn't charge it, meaning that there are 31 documents that he is charged with illegally possessing, and the document at issue here is not one of them. It doesn't mean that the tape is not admissible. I think it will be admissible, but I'm wondering why Jack...
You hear that voice? You hear the inflection? I mean, imagine this person being around a table with you every day. You go to work with this person. Is this the person you want to go have a beer with? Is this the person you want to watch your home for the weekend? Is this the person you would trust with anything? I mean, think about that and the way this person goes about life. This person has tremendous amounts of power in this current administration. Tremendous amounts. And I understand now he's working for MSNBC and doing a bunch of stuff. Believe me, he has a lot of power, ins and outs out there. He gets a lot of the leaks, right? This is not a person who has any curiosity, that intends to be fair, that is just gonna leave it to democracy and voting. Believe me, all right? And it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. So anyway, so let's finish up the Trump stuff here. I'm going to finish, I think, under 40 minutes today because I'm only 20 minutes in. I got just about halfway through the window. So anyway, so here's Fani Willis out there. She's telling us she has completed her work. Boy, she's been working hard out there. She completed her investigation into the Trump stuff. Believe me, folks, she completed her investigation about 30 seconds after Alvin Bragg decided he was going to prosecute. And it was like, oh yeah, batten down the hatches because all of us are going to come. Some people may not be happy with the decisions that I'm making, and sometimes when people are unhappy, they act in a way that could create harm. So you see, she's not the one that's breaking the law. You're going to be the one breaking the law. And I want you to understand, folks, I hadn't said this in a long time, but heads they win, tails we lose. These are not people of good faith. They're not people following the rule of law. It's obvious they're not following the law. If she charges that phone call, that's all you need to know. The electors, it takes a little bit of a breakdown if she charges the electors, right? And I think she's going to charge both. I think she's going to say the call was an attempt to overturn an election, and the electors, she's going to go along the Michigan line and say they forged a bunch of stuff, and they're going to say Trump, it was a corrupt organization under RICO is what she's going to say, okay? But I want you to understand, they won't even give you anything. So here's the problem. If you criticize her, you're causing harm, right? That's dangerous. And again, these are not serious people. They should not be in charge of anything. But here's what I wanted to get to. So we're done with the Trump stuff. So here's Hakeem Jeffries. I tweeted over the weekend, and I'd stand behind this. Imagine being the House Minority Leader, right? The leader of the Democrat Party in the House, although it's in the minority, is a very powerful position. Okay, seriously, I want you to stop right now and put it in your brain. Imagine you're now the House minority leader. In a year, you could be the majority leader because of the Dems. I mean, the Republicans have the narrowest of majorities. If you flip 5 seats, you're now the House majority leader. Guaranteed. A lot of power there, okay? And imagine what would you do, get up every day to try to make the world a better place. Just anything. What would you try to do? I mean, there are tons of things you could try to do. Tons, right? Here's what Hakeem Jeffries decided to do apparently last night, a little bit after 3 minutes after midnight. Justice Alito apparently believes right-wing extremists on the Supreme Court are above the law. It's time for Congress to decisively make clear they are not. That's what he decided to do, to attack a co-equal branch of government, smear it without any evidence at all. That's what he decided to do. And that's what he does every day. Don't take my word for it. It's at Rep. Jeffries, at Rep. Jeffries. Go take a look at his Twitter feed. It is 99.9% of the time smears, calling them extreme MAGA, right-wing extremists, white supremacists, everything in the book. That's what he does. And again, I understand why he does it, because that's what his voters want. That's the red meat they crave. That's how he get elected. He doesn't get elected to solve any problems, do anything constructive. He gets elected to attack his political opponents and other people. But here's what I wanted to tell you about, because I did, like I said, I did a long Twitter feed about it. And here's what's clearly going on with the thing. So first and foremost, let's the Constitution. Article 3 is a co-equal branch of government, all right? That means the only things that you can do to it, right, the Constitution says is it shall be created and they shall have life tenure. And it also says in the Constitution that the only way to remove them for life tenure, right, is obviously the end of their life, which is obvious, or impeachment. Okay, it's very simple. Now, a lot of people will say that since it doesn't say how many members of the Supreme Court there will be, Congress they can pack it or unpack it. True story. Absolutely, they can. They can expand it from 9 to 13. They can take it from 9 to 6. They can do whatever they want. And yes, in our history, there have been, not always been 9. There's been fewer. right? I don't think there's ever been more, but there's been fewer. They could absolutely do that. Number two, you can impeach. They have been working on this for the last couple years. Nobody in the 100 years of America ever suggested you regulate the Supreme Court. In fact, we do have regulation of the lower branches, the courts of appeals and the district courts and the other administrative courts. They're also judges. They have an ethics code. They have all kinds of things they have to do. That is called congressional regulation. There's an argument to be made that that's also unconstitutional, but no one's ever challenged that. But every time Congress did it for the hundreds of years we've been a country, all the way back to Thomas Jefferson when he was the president, we never tried to regulate the court because everybody understood uniformly you can't regulate a co-equal branch because it ain't co-equal then, right? The Supreme Court governs itself, just like the executive branch governs itself, right? Congress can't pass a law that says you will have a cabinet meeting every Monday, even though it's probably a good idea to do that, but they can't do that, right? Here's what's going on. So everybody understood that. Well, we no longer care about the Constitution, and Democrats don't even pretend they like the Constitution unless it meets and they're trying to gaslight you or demagogue. So here's the plan. We could start a bunch of rumors about all these people doing all these really bad things. Now, again, they're stupid, so they go over the top. They don't make them like things and talk about them, which is they used to talk about them, which is, well, I mean, it's probably not the best thing in the world to take free trips and to take free food and to get all these lavish parties and things. It's probably not the greatest thing in the world, but it's not illegal. I mean, and it's not unethical. I mean, it's probably not proper. I mean, you probably should have a little more decorum, but that's the way they used to talk about it. Now they act like Alito and Clarence Thomas are corrupt, and they're literally taking trips, and then they're turning around and voting in favor of these people that gave them these trips, which, by the way, is all a lie. And if they did that, it would be something that should be impeached. And if any of these allegations that they're saying, and by the way, whenever they do it, they always forget that the leftist judges are doing exactly the same thing, to the same degree, too. Don't be fooled by the degree. They're all doing it to the same degree, right? They never mention that. But anyway, here's the point. If they're really doing that stuff, if they're really taking a lavish and then next week ruling in favor, that's impeachable conduct. And they should be impeached immediately. Now, why won't they impeach them? Two reasons. One, because they know then they would have to deal with the evidence, and the evidence would be revealed to be a lie. Now, that's not as big as impediment as it used to be, because now in the Trump era, they realize they can lie with impunity. The January 6th committee was an open joke to those of us that follow the Constitution. It's just a joke. It was a joke from the beginning to the end. Even when they didn't lie, which they did a lot, even when they didn't lie, even the things they were saying were easily debunkable, right? And they had to resort to lies a lot. But anyway, that would be one of the reasons. Here's the second reason. There's no way to impeach because you got to get 2/3 of the Senate, right? First off, the GOP House isn't going to do it. But even if you had the House, you could do it, and then you're not going to get a third of the Republican caucus to vote to remove a justice. So what's plan B? Well, here's plan B. It's very obvious. You convince the public that the Supreme Court's out of control, so we got to pass some laws that the Constitution says you can't pass. Then all of a sudden you're going to go to the judge and go, hey, judge, well, we just passed this law that we shouldn't be able to pass, but nobody cares about the Constitution more, so we did. So here's this law. You get 20 years for not recusing yourself when we thought you should. Oh, well, I mean, Justice Thomas, I suppose if you just want to resign your seat, all this could just go away, right? So voila, now I don't have to impeach you, right? I don't have to do that. I just pass a law, say you violated the law, you either leave or you get 20 years, right? And, of course, if we convict you, it'll make you, then we might actually get 16 Republicans to go along with it. That's the obvious trick. I just told you, you heard it here first. It's obvious what they're doing. And again, just so to wrap it up in a nice little bow, the Constitution provides two ways justices can be replaced and removed. They die. Well, actually, if you want to die or retire, you can do either. Breyer retired. Scalia actually died, right? So that does it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, okay? Or you can impeach him. That's it, okay? There's no regulation and then get them to resign via extortion. All right, but that's what they're going for. All right, so quick, and I'm throwing this in here. Should have been in the Trump pile, but it wasn't. Breaking, this is Call to Activism. One of these left-wing Democrat groups has 1 million followers, which is horrifying. But anyway, breaking. Donald Trump's PAC spent more than $40 million on legal fees for the first half of 2020 or 2023 alone. Cheers to the poor schmucks who are donating their hard-earned money to lawyers instead of Republican candidates. Oh, and Trump has nearly lost every legal battle too, right? Again, folks, confession through projection. Everybody knows that Trump's being harassed through lawfare. Everybody knows that you have to pay legal bills. Folks, why don't you just tell us that you're interfering in the election, and one of the ways you're doing it is running up a legal bill so that money that could go to otherwise campaigning for Republicans is now going, right, to pay legal bills, right? But they're the party that believes in democracy, right? Of course, they would never do that. They believe in democracy. All right, so here's a weatherman down in Florida. Never heard of him in my life, but I wanted you to listen because there's a lot of climate news out there. And folks, you got to understand about the climate. One of the good reasons the Democrat Party goes after the young people is because some things you have to be just young to believe, and you haven't had enough time, right? If somebody came and told me when I was 10, the earth is warming, blah, 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 I mean, I might believe it, right? But when it's like I tweeted yesterday, somebody, they're trying this new, they're masters at mind games and wordplay. So the wordplay now is it's no longer global warming, but global boiling. Right? I don't know if it's going to take. But anyway, so I tweeted out, it's not global boiling, it's called July. So let me tell you, having been on the earth now for 55 years, it's freaking hot in Dixie in July. I mean, it's hot. July and August are the hottest days of the month. I golf every weekend, and I don't wear a glove. So in July and August, it's so hot in those 2 months, my actual palms sweat. Makes it a little more difficult. There's a trick you can do to keep your hand dry for about 60 seconds so you hit a golf shot. But folks, I mean, only in July, every July and August, I have to do that. I don't have to do it in June. I don't have to do it in September, but I do in July and August. It's just hot, and it's always been that way. So when you come to me and you can talk about this weather event, I'm going to laugh in your face because I'm like, yeah, it's been that way. I remember, again, some of the earliest trips I ever made to Atlanta, my aunt just talking to my dad saying, Don, I just melt. I just melt in July. And, that's just Atlanta. It is what it is. But these people, this guy looks a little on the younger side. Maybe to him, he really believes this. And again, just so you understand the point, I'm not a jerk about this. I'm willing to be open to the idea that the earth is warming, and I'm even open to the idea that we're causing it. But why then is the temperature in July in Atlanta 95? And why was it 50 years ago when I came to visit my aunt in July 95? Wouldn't it be like 102, 103 and going up, right? Wouldn't it? No, it isn't. It's exactly where it was then. It hadn't changed a bit. Anyway, here's his opinion.
This is the first time that I have been overly concerned that we have reached a point we cannot return from. And that's because those 101 degree ocean temperatures, that was hotter than any number we saw on the entire planet for the ocean right here in South Florida. And that leads to
All right, folks, I debunked that last week. It was a body of water that doesn't move, that's actually been 102 before. It's just... Folks, and again, this is a young person, so he may actually believe that. I don't know. Anyway, but I wanted you to listen to John Kerry because he even a little bit more confession about through projection. And the reason we're covering this is because really it is a slow news day. There's a lot of things I could have talked about. I really wanted to talk about this global boiling hoax, and it is supposedly going to be the hottest month on record, folks. It's an El Nino. The numbers are going to be rigged. They lie to us all the time. The numbers are going to be rigged. But even if they weren't, the recorded is a tell, right? Because we don't know what happened. Recorded basically gets you back to about 60 or 70 years, right there. That's part of the. Again, we always tell you they're lies, damn lies, and statistical lies. That's how they get around the statistics. Recorded history. Right? Well, yeah, if we were in a period of cooling or now we're in a period of warming, about to hit a period of cooling, yeah, that could actually even be true. But it won't be. It'll be a hoax. But here's what's really going on. Take a listen to John Kerry.
Agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world, depending a little bit on how you count it, but it's anywhere from 26 to 33. And we can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center.
Now, folks, one of the greatest advancements of human history of the 20th century, by and large, was big agriculture. We can just feed people as far as the eye can see. It makes our lives better. It is a good thing. But people like John Kerry, you have to understand the way they see the world, right? And again, this is not a well person. It isn't. I mean, you would think you had that kind of stuff. The last thing I'd be doing is politics. What does it tell you about a person who could literally get up every day and have man servants and women servants and just live a party every day, 24/7, 365? And instead of doing that, he does this. There's something about a person like that. And again, it'd be one thing if he did it occasionally. No. He does it. He does it every day. Gets up and does this. This is a person who wants to control your life and or believes something that I'm going to tell you what he believes in a moment. But anyway, you got to go after big agriculture. Now, here's a couple of problems with that. One, you're now attacking one of the greatest advancements that our forefathers gave us. First and foremost, so I got a problem right there. No. Okay, resources like oil and food are two of the greatest things we have. Why are you attacking them, right? So that's a big problem. Number two, why is it the solution to climate change always happens to just coincidentally favor your form of government? For once, why don't you just throw us a bone and go, well, what we have to do about the climate is have more constitutional Republican government. For once, we got to make the government a little bit smaller. Just make that government just a little bit smaller. Give you a little more freedom and power, a little bit more of your money in your pocket. And never. It's just a coincidence. That's all it is. But anyway, he continues. Mr. Kerry, go on. Tell us what's really going on here. What's your real problem? What really upsets you, Mr. Kerry? Is it really the global warming or is it something else?
Solution. But with a growing population on the planet, we just crossed the threshold of 8 billion.
Bingo! Again, folks, the entire world, the entire 8 billion people, we could put them in Texas and live fine. That's how big the earth is. John Kerry doesn't understand that. Now, I'm not going to play any more to the bit because I got 3 more slides I want to get to him. But folks, he goes on to talk about scientists and experts. I don't think that's not just me. These scientists and these experts, they think that, right? Well, here's the science. If all the 8 billion people can fit in Texas, why are you concerned about the fact that we got countries big in the United States, which could easily fit in, but we got China, we got Russia, also big countries, and a bunch of others, right? We got resources as far as the eye can see. What are you talking about? Not to mention, we'll have improvements, right? Humans are very adaptive, right? If you'd ask somebody, anyway, I could go on, but folks, that's what it is. They're afraid of human beings. And they like where they are, and they're just afraid if you keep going, why, there's not going to be enough fuel to power my jet. That's what it's all about. That's what it's about. It's not about anything else, and it always has been. So this is a slide. I thought this was just kind of interesting. It popped up in my food. And anyway, a new reactor at a nuclear power plant in Georgia has entered commercial operation, becoming the first new American reactor built from scratch in decades. Folks, the answer has been right in front of us. If you really gave a crap about the environment, if that's really what it was, nuclear power is very good for the environment. It produces boundless energy, far more than fossil fuels can ever dream of doing, right? But we haven't built them in decades. No wonder why that is, right? And again, just to show you that it's a hoax. And one more point about that, just so you're clear on that and how this works. Folks, if you want to really make improvements, and you have to understand, like if you want to lose weight, let's say right now you say, I want to lose 10 pounds, right? That's going to take you, even with all the forget about all the hard work you're going to do. It's going to take you about 6 months to do it. Right, seriously. Okay, right? You got it. The sooner you start, the sooner that 6 months is there, right? If you want to start building power plants, it takes decades to get them online. Why aren't we doing more of that? Because it ain't about the flicking environment. Why? That's why. Anyway, but the point is, the sooner that we get rid of these people and get them out of office, it's going to take decades of work to get things back to where they need to be. So this was in my feed. This is somebody from the ex-CIA, FBI, something. All these people, they're high up at Twitter. Right, they're high up at Facebook and other places, and I want you to listen to the way they talk about this. Is today. This person is talking today about this up at Twitter. He's a former spook. Now he works for Twitter. Take a listen.
Specifically, we remove content that has been debunked as false and leading to physical harm by public health experts related to the pandemic. So these are things like fake preventative measures, claims the virus doesn't exist, or this also includes a variety of claims about vaccines. The idea here is to remove misinformation that could lead to imminent physical harm by somebody maybe not receiving appropriate treatment or exposing themselves to the disease.
Anyway, you've heard enough. Anyway, so the person spent a bunch of time to say, goes over to Twitter and misinformation, disinformation, we censor this, we censor that. The whole idea of this person is that you're not smart enough to make your own decisions. And to this day, we're still talking about that vaccine like it's anything other than a hoax. Seriously, folks. That's going on. That just happened. But there's a reason why that happened, because here's the head of one of these tech groups. This is Mark Zuckerberg, right? I just want you to listen to him. I think this is an interview with, I think it was Joe Rogan, but it doesn't matter. Take a listen to a little bit of this, and I'll wrap up the show.
So misinformation, I think, is...
Again, hear that term again?
Has been a really tricky one
It's not. See, and here, first off, folks. Anytime I hear the word information modified, my brain stops listening to you. You're just lying. There's information. There's theories. They're not conspiracy theories. They're theories. Okay, there's a theory. The Earth's flat. I reject that theory, but it's a theory, right? This whole idea that they're better than us and I can't make up my own mind. You're talking about nuclear fission. Okay, I'll give you that one. Even I've had some physics, but I'm probably going to need some experts. But very few things fit into that. We're talking about a freaking platform where people get to talk. Anyway, he continues, but right there, I know he's full of it.
There are things.
And by the way, it's not challenging. It's called the First Amendment. We figured this out hundreds of years ago in this area. You have freedom of speech, and then there's a few categories, very narrow, where the government can come in and suppress. Very narrow. That's it. Just follow the freaking law. That's all you got to do, Zuckerberg. It's not hard.
Kind of obviously false, right? That are maybe factual, but may not be harmful. So it's like, all right, are you going to censor someone for just being wrong? It's, if there's no kind of harm implication of what they're doing, I think there's a bunch of real kind of issues and challenges there. But then I think that there are other places where it is, just take some of the stuff around COVID earlier on in the pandemic, where there were, real health implications, but there hadn't been time to fully vet a bunch of the scientific assumptions. And, unfortunately, I think a lot of the kind of establishment on that, kind of waffled on a bunch of facts and, asked for a bunch of things to be censored that in retrospect ended up being,
So anyway, a lot of people are talking about this bit, and it's a little bit about how much pressure the Biden administration put on Facebook to censor and all this. But here's my takeaway. It's very simple. And sometimes simple is good. And in this instance, it is. Folks, he sits there now after he's, what's that song? It's like when the head man comes, he knows damn well he's been cheated. Like, he's the head man and he still doesn't know he's been cheated. He's been robbed. He has no idea. Like, it was very simple, Mark. It's always been very simple. We figured out the free speech thing hundreds of years ago. Like, when they come and they tell you to censor, go, is it imminent, violence, like in the area of Brandenburg? Does it violate people's actual copyrights that you can actually show me? Right? If it doesn't do that, bye. See ya. We're not doing it. There's no real hard thing here to figure out, Mark. People that come to censor are going to censor information they don't like to somehow get an advantage over other people. And yes, I'm not an imbecile. I get it. If I have free speech, some people are going to be duped by hucksters, and some people are going to be misled. I understand that is something that could happen. However, that is far less nefarious than people like Biden telling me I can't hear information I can hear. It's very simple. But here you have these supposed leaders. And the fact that this person is a billionaire, it really, as Churchill once said, is an indictment on our system, right? I mean, this person acting like he's all erudite and smart, and I'm just trying to figure this out. I mean, a child I could explain this to, and they would get it. Literally. And anyway, so to me, the biggest point of that bit wasn't that he now is upset about a little bit of the pressure that the Biden administration, and that's now called the Twitter files, or I'm sorry, Facebook files, because Jim Jordan has been tweeting it out as such, and apparently they got a bunch of emails proving that the Biden White House was leaning on Facebook, and now he's, they got us to get rid of some information that was actually true. Jeez. Who would have thought that would happen, Mark? Maybe just learn your history or go listen to the Great American Male podcast. Anyway, folks, you are now all caught up to date with the news of the day. Again, remember, I probably will not be have a podcast tomorrow because I have a trial, but I will be back Wednesday. And I might drop one. We'll see what it turns out. Anyway, you're now all caught up to date with the news of the day. And if you enjoyed this podcast, I hope you tune back in tomorrow.